Okay, we are simplifying rationals. Rationals just means that there's letters on the bottom. Okay, if you look in all the denominators, there are letters. Yes? Okay, so things to know and remember, factoring is back. I told y'all factoring wasn't going away. It's not. It's still not going away after this unit. There's other units with factoring. So if you're still struggling with factoring, Monday is a really good day to stay after school and go through factoring. Yes? Cool. So things to know / remember, huh? Or Tuesday, sorry. I forget. I keep saying it like we're going to be here Monday. I'm going to be here Monday. Not y'all. Okay, things to remember. When we're snowflake, that's when we have 3 terms or trinomial, right? Okay, remember, it's A times C on top, B on bottom, AX, AX. Okay, we're multiplying and adding. We're trying to find what multiplies to give you the top number and adds to give you the bottom number, and that's what goes here and here. Now, I will have a cheat sheet, a factoring cheat sheet, just reminders like your formulas for cubes and stuff like that on the board when y'all are working. So don't overstress, but this, just a little refresher. What about grouping? That's when we have 4 terms. What do we do then? Do y'all remember?
You split it?
Yes, you cut it in half. Cut in half. And then you GCF both sides. There are obviously more steps to that, but those 2 steps should help you remember. I will have all the steps on the board in a minute. And then the last one I really want you to remember is difference of 2 squares. I also call this dots. Difference of 2 squares. This is when you have a perfect square minus a perfect square. Yes? If you're not sure if something's a perfect square, what can you do? Can you square root it to see if it's a perfect square?
Yeah.
Number-wise, can you square root letters in your calculator? No, unfortunately you cannot. So, for example, if we have x squared minus 81, is x squared a perfect square? It literally says square, so it's obviously a perfect square. What about 81? It is, but if we're not sure, we can do second x squared for the square root and type 81, not negative 81, just 81, and it's 9. Well, isn't 9 times 9 81? So therefore it is a perfect square. So this is x times x, and this is 9 times 9. Now it's negative 81, so one of these 9s has to be negative, correct? And the other one will have to be positive, so that it's just x plus 9, x minus 9. And there's a formula to it. I'll have that on the board here in a little bit. So those are the big things to remember. Okay, so look at number 1, 2, and 3. These are a lot like the ones that we just had on our test, meaning there is no factoring because there's no plus or minus on top or bottom in those 3, correct? Okay, so a reminder. Big numbers, coefficients, yes, we treat those like normal. This says divide, we're going to divide. Now, does 14 divided by 4 give you a pretty number? No, so we just have to simplify our fraction. So alpha y equals enter. We don't even have to do it by hand if we don't want to. We get what? 7 over 2. Now, this is dividing. What do we do to exponents when we're dividing? Subtract. Where are there more b's? Top, and I have 5, and how many do I have on the bottom? Yeah, if there's no exponent, it's just 1, so 5 minus 1 is 4. Where are there more r's? Bottom. 2 minus 1 is, do I need to put an exponent of 1? No. There's my answer. So I want y'all to try number 2, and if you finish number 2, I want you to start number 3 while I take attendance really fast.
Yo, come on, dude.
So what did y'all get on number 2? So this is what you should have gotten on number 2, yes?
Yeah.
Okay, 18 over 15, if you simplify that in your calculator, it's 6 over 5. More x's on top, 5 minus 2 is 3. And what happened to the y squareds? Yeah, if they match, they cancel. What if everything matched? What would that equal? 1, not 0, 1. Okay, if everything cancels, it equals 1. Yes? Cool. Technically, I could put a 1 here, but what's 6 times 1? 6. So is it worth putting the 1? No. Okay, look at number 3. Do not let this throw you off. Just because it's separated by a multiplication symbol, you can literally draw your line all the way across and say multiplication on top, multiplication on bottom. Because that's what you do when you're multiplying fractions. Top times top, bottom times bottom, right? Big numbers we treat like normal. Can our calculator simplify all that for us? Yes, you can literally type it as multiplication. What are my big numbers on top? 7 times 63. Yes? What are my big numbers on bottom? 9 times 35. And look, it literally simplified it for me. I didn't have to multiply it out. What did I get? 7 over 5. Now, I'm going to rewrite my letters, and I'm going to rewrite them in order because I don't have a duplicate letter on top. So AC cubed, and I don't have a duplicate letter on bottom, so I'm just going to write it in order. A squared C. Am I done? No, so let's keep going. So I still have my 7 over 5. Where are there more A's? Bottom. And how many do I have left? 1. Where are there more C's? Top. How many do I have left? 2. So don't be afraid to reorganize it to help yourself out, okay? Any questions on those 3? Cool, those were refreshers. So let's look at example 4. What's different? Yeah, we have subtraction, and some of them have addition. When you have addition and subtraction, you can't just cancel things. Like I can't be like, oh look, k, let's simplify it. 6 over 4, 3 over 2. I can't do that because that minus sign or plus sign make them stuck as a group like glue. Okay, the only way to break it apart now is to factor. So, because we have to figure out what times what gives you that. So, what's wrong with the top? We're going to look at just the top for right now. It's not in order. When I put it in order, what do I get? No. Negative 3k plus 6. This is a positive 6 and a negative 3, so they have to stay that way when I flip-flop it. And I'm going to ignore the bottom for right now. We're going to not simplify. We're doing the opposite. We're going to factor the whole top before we start looking at another piece. So, what do I always check after I check order? GCF. Does this have a GCF? Yeah, 3 is my smallest number. Does 3 go into 6? So I know I'm taking out a 3. Now, my first term is what? So I have to take out a what? Negative. When your first term's negative, you have to take out a negative. When your first term is positive, you have to take out a positive. Literally, if your first term is positive and everything else is negative, it doesn't matter. Your GCF's positive. Yes? That's why it's important to check order first. But, so we have to divide by negative 3, divide by negative 3, divide by negative 3. Well, don't the negative 3's cancel? And I'm left with k. And what's 6 divided by negative 3? Negative 2. So this is the top fully factored. And I know it's fully factored because I don't have any more exponents. And I took out the GCF. Like, that's all I can do here. Now look at the bottom. How would I factor that? It's only 2 terms. Is it perfect squares or perfect cubes? Which one? Yeah, it's the difference of 2 squares. This is the dots. So what times what gives us k squared? K times k. And what times what gives us 4? 2 and negative 2, right? Because one of them has to be negative to give us that negative. That's what makes that middle term cancel, the positive and the negative. So I don't need to write that twice, so I'm just going to go straight here, and it's k minus 2, k plus 2. Now what if you wrote k plus 2 first? It doesn't matter. Order doesn't matter when you multiply. Now, what matches? Yes, the whole piece cancels. So that's fine. Because it has that minus, it had to be the whole piece or we couldn't cancel it anyway. So what I'm left with is negative 3 over k plus 2. I didn't need the parentheses on the bottom anymore because that's all that's left. If I left the parentheses, am I wrong? No. If you leave the parentheses, cool. If you don't, cool. Doesn't matter. Now, if I still had a number on the bottom, I would have had to keep the parentheses. Any questions with that?
So if you don't organize it, is it wrong?
What do you mean?
Like if I don't organize it, is it wrong?
Like if you didn't put it in order?
Yeah, if I didn't put it in order, is it wrong?
You wouldn't have taken out the correct GCF and then you would have canceled the wrong side. So yeah. Because it would have looked like k plus 2 or 2 plus k, which you would have said probably cancels this. And that's not true. That shouldn't have canceled. Does that make sense? Okay. Look at number 5. Now 5 looks gross, but the nice thing about 5 is it's already fully factored. Yes, I have an a squared, but it's plus 4. Remember, squares, perfect squares have to be minus. That's not minus, I can't simplify it. So what cancels right away?
The a squared.
Yeah, the a squared plus 4's cancel. And I know that this c minus 3 is going to be part of my answer because that doesn't cancel with anything. And this a minus 2 is going to be part of my answer because that doesn't cancel with anything. However, look at the first piece. Isn't that just like number 1 and 2?
Yes.
How would I simplify that?
GCF.
Oh, there's no GCF. I could do 2 over 8 in my calculator. What would that give me? 1/4. And then I have a squared over a. Where are there more a's? Top. And how many do I have left? 1. What about c squared? It's just c squared on the bottom. It's on the bottom. It stays on the bottom. There was no c on top to simplify. So the reason I wanted to do this problem is because I wanted to show you. See how I have a c here and a c here? Can those cancel? No, because this is minus 3, which means it's stuck like glue. That whole thing has to cancel, which doesn't happen, so that's not possible. This is my answer. What if you didn't have the 1? Is that okay? Yes. So if you just had a parentheses c minus 3 on top, that's fine as well. Look at number 6. What do you notice? Can we factor the top? If there's no plus or minus, y'all, it's not worth factoring. So you're just going to leave it as 2x squared. What about the bottom? Is it in order? Does it have a GCF? Yes. What's my smaller number? Does 2 go into 10? Therefore 2 is my GCF. Do they both have x's? Yes. And remember, we always take out the smallest exponent. So this one has 3 and this one has 2. How many should I take out? 2. Because I can take 2 away from 3, but can I take 3 away from 2? No, that's why we do that. So I'm going to divide out my GCF. What's 10 divided by 2? And then x cubed over x squared, what does that leave me with? Yeah, just x, or x to the first power. I have a minus sign. Well, what happens here? They both cancel, so what does that equal? 1. Don't say 0. None of y'all did, but. Okay, now can I simplify? Yeah, these cancel, and what's my answer? Why are y'all wrong?
Oh, 1 over 1.
Yes, the 5x minus 1 is on the bottom, and it has to stay on the bottom. Now, can I have an empty top? No, so what can I put up there that doesn't change anything? 1. Now, technically, isn't 2 divided by 2 1? So mathematically, did I change anything? No. So you could rewrite that with or without the parentheses on the bottom, and that's fine. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I don't have a method to my madness. Okay, 2 more. Let's look at number 7. This one can be a little confusing on the top. The bottom is just snowflake, right? Because it's got 3 terms, we're just going to snowflake it. But on top, what's wrong with it? It's not in order. And when I put it in order, just the inside of the parentheses, what do I get? I'm going to keep that 7. Negative x plus 7. Am I allowed to have a negative in the front?
Yes.
No. So I have to take it out. So when I take it out, where should I put it? In front of the 7 or in the middle? Not in the middle, because then what will it look like? Subtraction. And the reason I'm going to show you is because technically it's like taking out a -1 for a GCF, right? Negative is the same thing as -1. When I take out that -1, I have that 7. There's no sign in the middle, which means multiply. And I'm taking out a -1. Well, the negatives here cancel, and I'm left with just x. What's 7 divided by -1? -7. But because this was multiplication, what's 7 times -1?
Negative
So it's -7x minus 7. That's why that negative goes in the front. Now let's snowflake the bottom. What's A? 1. What's B? -4. And C is -21. Now, thank y'all for not saying letters. A, B, and C are never letters, only numbers. Yes? Cool. So what's A times C? -21. What's B? -4. B for bottom. And A is 1, so 1x, 1x. What multiplies to give me -21 and adds to give me -4? Huh? Yes. +3, -7. Now, if numbers aren't your thing, do you remember the calculator trick? I'll have this on the board. -21 divide x, -21 divide x plus x, because that's top number divide x, top number divide x plus x, right? And then what do? We go to our table, we go to the graph, and what am I looking for? The bottom number, -4, where? In y2. Here it is. And it was -7, +3, which is what I said. So does that good? Cool. So you can always use that trick if you need it. Now, next thing we check for is do the sides simplify. Does 1/3 simplify?
Yeah. I mean, no.
No, so that's a factor. Does 1/7 simplify? No, so that's a factor. So we have x plus 3, x minus 7. I don't have to put the 1. If I do, am I wrong? No. What matches? And we're left with -7 over x plus 3. Okay, last one, number 8. We're just going to talk our way through it. I'm going to tell you right now to save our time, yes, it's factored correctly. Is the next step correct? Did the m plus 4's match? Yeah, so we canceled them. So is that good? Yes. Then we cancel the m's, right?
You can't.
No, why not? Because you have that -1, which makes that stuck together. So you can't do that. This is wrong. Therefore, this is wrong. My final answer, y'all, is 2m minus 1 over 5m. Any questions with that? Comments, concerns?